Good evening, and welcome to another instalment of Teaching Matters. On tonight's show, we'll be talking to Chris Thompson, a student teacher from the University of Southern Queensland, on the problem of racial bullying and how education can help to mediate difference and dominance. Good evening, Chris. Good evening, and thanks for having me. Firstly, I would like to speak to you on what is meant by the terms difference and dominance. What exactly are they? Australia is a very multicultural society, having people from many different races living on our shores. The differences between the races can vary, ranging from large differences in terms of physical appearance, culture and customs, to lesser differences in physical appearance, culture and customs. The difference between racial groups is commonly measured by the different distance between two opposing ends of a scale. For example, the difference between those with a white skin tone and those with a black skin tone would be considered opposite ends of a scale. These points at the end of each side of the scale are commonly known as binary opposites, and the space between each end is known as the zone of difference. The greater the distance between each of the end points, the greater the difference between the two. When people are determining who they are and what defines them, they look at the differences between the other races that they are exposed to and their own, and work out what and who they are based on the differences between them. For example, when we're working out what it means to be Australian, we look at other cultures and determine who we are based on the differences between their culture and our own. This, however, can prove to be problematic, as a vast majority of the population are white Australians, making it the social standard or dominant culture, and the zone of difference is usually considered to be the difference between white Australian culture and the other culture found in our society. Therefore, the people from other cultures must change who they are and their own customs in order to become more Australian. This can be seen even in the lives of the Indigenous Australian population. So much of their culture has been lost over time as they were forced to adopt the white Australian culture and shed their own. This forced shedding of culture is a strong example of dominance. Thank you for your explanation of difference and dominance. How does this relate to bullying? Bullying is an issue faced regularly by a large portion of the population, and is generally characterized as being an issue in which one or more individuals mistreat one or more of their peers. This mistreatment can span a variety of different methods, including physical bullying, verbal bullying, or emotional bullying, and can be found in schools, the workplace, and even the wider community. Though there are many reasons as to why individuals bully others, a common reason is the thought that one race is inferior to another. Race is a commonly perceived difference that can form the basis for bullying. Racial bullying generally involves an individual or group perceiving their race as superior to another, and therefore it's acceptable to mistreat people from the perceived lesser race. To make a generalization, people of a darker skin tone were often perceived as inferior to people of a lighter skin tone. The lighter or white skin tone was considered to be the norm, and society deemed the darker or black skin tone to be different from the norm, and therefore was inferior. This can be seen due to the fact that people who have had dark skin were frequently used as slaves or servants. So how would you teach about racial bullying in terms of difference and dominance? I would begin by exploring the differences between the students. For example, hair colour, eye colour, height, skin tone, and other areas in which the students differ. I would then discuss the fact that some of these differences extend from where our ancestors came from, and that different cultural influences can be seen in each of the students. I would then ask the students what they know about bullying. After hearing the students' answers, I'm able to gain an understanding of what the children know, and I'm able to effectively focus my teaching on the areas of the children's knowledge and understanding that needs improvement. Finally, after teaching the children about bullying, I'm able to combine the two lessons, difference and bullying, and discuss racial bullying and the negative effects it can have on an individual.
What would you hope to draw out of doing a series of lessons based on racial bullying? How might that deepen the students' understanding of difference and community identities?
Throughout the course of the lessons, it is my hope that the children would begin looking at the other students and start recognizing the differences between the other children in the class and themselves. The identification of difference would help the students understand more about who they are and what makes them unique, and that would make them feel more valued as a member of the classroom. My hope is also that the students would gain a deeper understanding of the damage that bullying can do.
What potential does teaching about racial bullying hold for critical engagement of various identity locations and senses of self?
There are a number of different outside influences that help to forge an individual's identity or sense of self. Some of these influences include race, gender or social class, etc. While teaching about difference, dominance, and racial bullying, the students will learn more about how their own sense of self is formed, particularly in relation to race. This gives the students time to reflect on themselves and what influences have played a part in who they are.
How might the teaching about racial bullying allow you to work as a transformative educator in the case of working to overcome disadvantage and marginalisation of some groups within your classroom and the community?
As a transformative educator, discussing the issue of racial bullying and the negative effects that it has will help the students to better understand what someone who is being bullied has to go through, and will help the students to create a deeper appreciation for each other's differences and how it is those differences that help to identify what it means to be Australian.
How might these lessons allow you to work to reduce discrimination in the community?
Discrimination is defined in the dictionary as the unfair treatment of a person, racial group, minority, etc. based on prejudice. Racial discrimination, though it's not the only form of discrimination that is seen in society, is one of the most common forms of discrimination, and it stems from racist viewpoints. These viewpoints are formed when a member or group of one race believes that one race is superior to another, and these viewpoints can be passed down through the generations. As a teacher, it is my goal to educate my students that all people should be treated equally, regardless of race. If the children of this generation can be taught the value of diversity, it may help to lessen the effects of discrimination in society.
Well, Chris, thank you for your time. The interview has been very informative. Next week, we talk about how to make the classroom a supportive place for children to learn. Good night.